Welcome to this alpha release of the Sysdea online system dynamic modeling software. If you've successfully logged into the software, this is the screen you should see. There's a title bar across the top with language options which will be enabled at a later date. Below that you'll see the control bar, which allows you to control various aspects of the model, and to the left you can see a side panel which will display different items depending on what you're trying to do. To start with, we may well want to give the model a name. Simply click on the name that's displayed and enter your own choice of model name. Click Save and the model will be added to your list of models that are available. You can see that list by clicking on the File Browser button on the top control bar. If the list gets quite long, it will be scrollable with the scroll bar to the right of the panel. But we're now working on my first model, which you can see at the top of the list. You will also see that there is a delete option against files in your file list. Simply click on the red button to the right and confirm your wish to delete the model. Do be careful with this, however, because at the moment there's no way to recover deleted models. The next thing you'll want to do before getting started on a model is to set up its timescales. Here is a model settings button on the control bar at the top, and that allows you to set the start time, which can be negative if required. We're going to build a model starting 12 months in the past and running forward to 24 months in the future. You can, if required, ask the simulation to calculate multiple times within each time period. So if I change that to 4, the simulation will calculate 4 times per time period. Save those settings and we're now ready to get going. As you work with the software, you may spot things that don't work quite as you'd like them to, or have other suggestions for us. So by all means, open the feedback panel, enter your comment, and click Submit Feedback. Close the feedback window, and we can get started on building our model. Throughout the development of Sysdea, we've erred on the side of trying to make the software as intuitive and easy to use as possible. So for example, there are no icons for adding items to the model, simply hit a keystroke. So for example, V adds a variable to the model wherever the pointer happens to be located. If you float over that item, you'll see a tool for dragging the element around, or you can simply use the arrow keys with the object selected. When the object was selected, the variable editing window appeared on the left. That allows us to, first of all, give the variable a name. You are allowed to use special characters in variable names in this software. In the formula box you can simply enter a value or any other formula. I'm going to say that we're spending $50,000 per month on marketing. The chart below the formula box now displays that value of 50. You can change the scale of that chart. If I change it from a minimum of 0 to a maximum of 100, the 50 value appears right across the chart, and you can, if you require, force the chart to display within those limits. If you don't do that, the chart will auto-scale to cover the maximum and minimum that actually apply. In larger models you may not want to display the charts for all the variables, so we have the option to display the chart or to hide it on the left. If you want to see charts in more detail on the model itself, drag it out away from the variable to which it applies, and you will see a larger version of the chart displayed. Finally, there is a note where you can explain what the variable is all about, and as soon as you click somewhere else, that panel closes up. The keystroke S simply adds a stock wherever the pointer is located. Alternatively, you can right click and that will bring up a list of things that you can do. Here we have the option to add a flow, which we will add to the left of the first stock, and we need to connect up the flow to the stock, which we do simply by dragging the arrowhead until it connects the flow to the stock. Once again, let's give this stock a name. We'll call this customers, thousands, and the flow will be customers 1,000 per month. So we've now got the variables set up that we may want to have in our model. Now we need to connect them up so that we can do some calculations with them. Simply start with your pointer over the source variable and drag it until it connects to the variable you want to link to. The red arrow line indicates that the value of marketing in this case is not actually used in any calculation of customers 1, and the red circle for the customers 1 flow. It also shows red to show once again that it does not contain a valid equation. When you connect items up, handles appear which allow you to change the shape of the lines that link variables. That applies to both the flow arrows and the link connectors between variables, and if you drag a flow around the stock to which it applies, it will continue to point towards that stock unless you use the handles to make it do something different. The cross in the middle of the line simply shows that you are able to delete that. If you make a mistake, then we've set up shortcuts to allow you to undo things rather fast. So Control Z will undo the mistake you made, and you can do multiple undo steps. Control Y will redo the last action that you undertook. So we're now in a position to put some calculations into this model. First of all, let's set an initial value for our customers. We can put a value of 200 customers in that stock there. Once again, we have the chart showing that value, and we can set the minimum and maximum for that chart once again. In the equation for customers 1, we can see in the formula box at the left that there is a message underneath showing first of all connected variables that can be used, in this case marketing, and a red warning that there are unused variables available if you wish to use them. There's a larger variable editor which shows first of all the variables that are available together with variables related to the simulation itself, units of time for example, and a range of functions that may be useful. We don't need that. We're simply going to put a formula in the box that says customers 1 is 0.5 times the amount of marketing spend. You need only single click the marketing spend variable to have it added to the equation. Notice that the quotes around the variable enable us to use special characters within the variable names. Note as we did this that both the connecting line and the variable object for customers 1 thousands per month changed from red to black to show that we have a valid equation using all the appropriate variables that are connected. By this point you may feel it's a good idea to be saving your model. You can either do that with the save button on the control bar at the top, get the message that the model has been saved, or once again standard shortcuts will work. Control S will achieve the same thing. It's possible that in this alpha version some things may not work correctly or the model may lock up, in which case you may want to reload the model, which you can do by hitting the F5 key. It's a standard browser reload command. The other standard browser command you can use is in the settings, switch to full screen view of the model and use whichever command is appropriate to escape from that full screen view, in this case F11. We'll now go on and show some of the other editing features that are available. We've already explained to you that you can move charts around a variable. You can also move the variable name relative to the circle that defines its location. If you wish to move more than one object, simply drag around those you want to move and click anywhere in the rectangle window to drag those items wherever you want them. Whilst items are selected, you can still carry out other editing actions such as connecting items. So if you want to move objects, simply make sure you click in the rectangle but not on any of the objects in the rectangle. You have the option to zoom the model to larger or smaller scales, and if you want to copy and paste objects, the standard Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. The pasted items once again are dropped on the workspace wherever your pointer happens to be. Once again, Control-Z undoes any actions that are required. Now let's look in some more detail at what you can do with editing variables. Here is the value we put in for marketing, $50,000 per month. We can, if we choose, put a more extensive formula in there. So instead of a constant value of 50,000 per month, we can put in a conditional statement, for example, that says if simulation time is less than 0, then I want the marketing spend to be 50, else I want it to be 100. Now you may have noticed as we've been working with this model that the small time charts on the variables have been constantly displaying the values of those variables throughout the simulation time that we're actually working on. So here we can see that from time -12 to 0, here's the time range along the top of the control bar, the value was 50 and is increased to 100 at time 0 and continue to time 24. This means that the number of customers won per month has followed a similar path because it's simply 0.5 multiplied by marketing, and that is already reflected in the accumulation of customers in the stock. They've been accumulating quite slowly up till time 0, and now they're increasing more quickly as we've increased the marketing spend. A further option we have, rather than use an equation or a constant in the formula, is to delete that. I will actually cut it with Control X because I want to come back and use that, and instead of putting a constant in there, I can actually sketch some values over time as to what marketing expenditure has actually been and what I think it should be out into the future. Note as I do that any changes I make show up as a red line, and after a short pause the blue line, which shows the values that will be used, moves to reflect the red value that I put in. If I want to inspect that in more detail, here we can expand the chart and be a little bit more precise about that, and we can also inspect the values that correspond with that time chart. Now if we change those values in the time chart, you'll notice that this time chart is actually controlling what the rest of the simulation is doing. If I put my formula back in to the formula bar, then the formula takes over control from the chart. If a formula and chart are both shown, the formula takes precedence in determining what happens to the value of a variable. If we don't want the sketch at all, we can simply hit the erase button and the sketch disappears. Now, as well as having the model constantly showing the values of all variables at all times, we can also run the simulation from period to period. Hit the Run Simulation button and you'll see the timescale of the whole model displayed at the top, in this case running from time -12 to time 24. You can play that and you'll see the values of all the variables changing as we go. You can also expand some of the charts if you wish to inspect those as it goes. You can also pause or run it straight to the end. You need to stop the simulation to return to other editing features. One additional useful feature here is that if we put in a constant value for the marketing spend instead of this formula, now when we run the simulation we actually have marketing spend shown as what's known as a control variable. It's simply a variable that has a single numerical value. Now when we play the model out over time, we can actually use this control variable to see what happens if we change values as we go. I'll change it from 50 to 100 and resume the simulation play. I think I've got enough customers now, so I think I'll change my marketing back to 20 and continue to play. You may want to copy data out of the model into a spreadsheet, for example. So if we revert to our calculation of what's going to happen to marketing spend over time, and we click on the number of customers, we have a table showing what's happened to the number of customers over time at each point in time. Remember, we've been calculating 4 times within each time unit, and here is the whole set of data for that variable. We can copy that data, switch to a spreadsheet and paste the data into the spreadsheet. Copy and paste from Excel back into equation values will be enabled shortly. So that's about it for this tour of the alpha version of Sysdea. There will be more features coming soon. In particular, we'll be adding comparative charts to allow you to display the values of different variables on the same large chart. We'll be adding data tables to display the values of several variables in the same table and allow copying of data out of those tables. We'll be adding text box objects, and we'll also be enabling file sharing. Just at the moment, any files you create in the software will only be private to you. We'll also be adding the clone object, which allows you to use one variable in additional locations throughout a larger model. We do hope you enjoy using this software. As we say, we'd be delighted to have any feedback from you using the feedback form provided in the software.